New Orleans loves a party, even in the rain. This crowd danced, ate, and celebrated victory and hope. At the second annual Walk for Recovery 5K run, benefiting Action Against Addiction and the Armed Services Network of Louisiana.
We need to celebrate recovery. Whether it's rain or shine, the people that have fought the disease of addiction, the brain disease of addiction, have had storms bigger than this. And we need to find a way to celebrate that there is an answer in a community where we see the negative effects all the time.
Not even the rain could stop the celebration, because in recovery there are so many hurdles that the individual has to jump over to get well. So this was just one more hurdle, and they made it.
You know, today it's kind of a cleansing. It's cleansing to be able to walk in the rain and say, you know what, this is nothing. You know, walking in rain is nothing compared to the battle of someone suffering from an addiction.
Nancy Breaux walked for her daughter Elle, who is undergoing treatment in a long-term recovery facility.
My 21-year-old daughter is suffering from mental illness, and she's an amazing 21-year-old, and she's battling depression. And as you mentioned, they're co-occurring. So often with a depression or any type of mental illness, there's other problems. People just want to fill themselves up with something. And so her mental illness causes kind of a co-addiction problem. And they go hand in hand.
What was your drug of choice?
Alcohol.
Alcohol? And what made you go into it? Were you born that way, or did you develop it?
Probably different reasons. My father was an alcoholic, and just not being educated enough on alcoholism.
You started drinking and
had no idea of the effects of long-term use that it would have upon me.
This year, thousands of Louisiana military veterans, active service members, and their families were given a voice and a measure of hope.
In the past 6 years, substance use has quadrupled. You know, it's 4 times, and it's 6 times as high as the civilian sector. So, and with military members coming back home from Iraq, Afghanistan, and all the other engagement that we're in, their rates of substance use and PTSD are just skyrocketing, and we're just seeing all these problems manifold.
And suicide is up too, isn't it?
Suicide is up. Last year we lost more military members by their own hand committing suicide than we did in combat. It's a huge issue.
A sad moment when you have to see your fellow service member get loaded onto that airplane to head home, and you know, we get left behind and have to deal with the fact that we've lost one of our own, and it does weigh heavily on us on the day-to-day, because they no longer get to live their life, and we do.
Being a military brat, I know it's not a normal, quote-unquote, normal way of life, you know. It has some good sides and it has some challenging sides. How do you deal with the stresses of military life, being deployed, being uprooted?
We have each other, you know, and family. Family really helps out, you know. Even though they're so far away, it definitely makes the experience, you know, a little better.
Ask anyone in this crowd and they'll tell you the brain disease of addiction affects everyone, hijacking lives, exploiting families, and stealing the soul of society.
We certainly have a crime problem in the city of New Orleans, and unfortunately it's a violent crime problem. But as I have said repeatedly, that no one really starts off as a violent offender. It's many of the lower level sort of offenses in which people sort of graduate to more serious problems. Substance abuse is a huge problem. I've always said we're going to solve our crime problem when we solve our drug problem.
What are the statistics of drugs or alcohol in connection to crime?
I would say if you really look at it, I would say it's close to 80%.
So many people think, why don't these people stop? Just stop. How does the brain play into the addiction aspect?
Well, you said that the brain's the computer. The brain is what we are. We can transplant any other organ from our body. We can put other animal parts in our body. We can amputate things, and we're still who we are as long as we have our brain. If you don't have your brain, though, you change who you are. Now, how do you change the brain? You can change it with damage, like trauma. You can change it with a birth defect. You can have, a developmental problem. Or you can change it pharmacologically. And that's what happens when you take a drug. The brain gets changed pharmacologically. If you change the brain, you're going to change the output of the brain, and the output of the brain is behavior. And so a person who has a changed brain has changed behavior. So these are what drugs are doing. They're going in and rewiring the brain.
Action Against Addiction believes that walks like this one are critical prevention tools for recovery, to raise awareness and to let people know that they can get well. There is absolute hope.
And that hope is strengthened by marshaling valuable resources through partnerships with key leaders, like the media.
It's important to use the power of the media for the good of the community, for the improvement of life and the betterment of the quality of life. And I think in doing that, we're gradually getting the message out. It's been tough. I mean, I've heard it said by people in recovery, New Orleans is one of the most difficult places on the planet for recovery because we celebrate drinking and substance abuse in general as a way of life. I mean, it's like everything you do. Crawfish boils, parties, Mardi Gras, sports, it all revolves around substance abuse, to put it quite frankly and bluntly.
My message is simple. Mayor Landry and I completely understand that overall health is not just physical health, it's mental health, it's making sure that for people who have addiction, there's opportunity for treatment, and that we're recognizing in policy and in our community that recovery is possible, and that we should do everything that we can to support it.
The New Orleans mayor and the Jefferson Parish president provided proclamations for the second year in a row, while 2 local district attorneys pledged to support treatment and prevention initiatives.
Unfortunately, we have not in the past addressed the substance abuse problem, the mental health issues which bring many people into the custodial environment. And it is important that if someone is incarcerated because maybe he has messed up on probation or he is a repeat offender but not necessarily for a violent offense, that he does get the help that he needs even while incarcerated so that when he gets out, he has not learned how to become a better criminal.
Baton Rouge Drug Court teamed up with Action Against Addiction and sent a busload of their clients to the walk, while key faces in the field of treatment rallied for the cause.
Heroin is ravaging our young community, young males in particular, anywhere from 17 to 25. Most of my young population that comes in right now, a majority of them are on injectable heroin.
Let me ask you about marijuana. Is that an issue for you guys too? Because a lot of people still think it's not addictive.
Yeah, it is an issue because it's always, most people start off taking marijuana and alcohol. We call them the gateway drugs for a reason. Nobody starts off shooting up IV heroin. So they usually start off with those drugs because they're seen in our society as not addictive or not that scary. But they inevitably lead to other things, particularly for people with the tendency for addiction.
I just think it's so wonderful for us to all be able to come together. It's really not an issue that's always brought to the forefront. A lot of people don't even know that treatment facilities exist in New Orleans. They don't want to talk about addiction. So it's so awesome for us to all be able to come together and really bring light to the issue.
Is it heartwarming to see all these people out here celebrating recovery?
It is terrific. You know, I think getting the word out about recovery is effective, and having people who are both in recovery and not in recovery participating, just, this grows every year, and it's great to see.
How hard is it for you to do the job that you do on a regular basis? Is it hard, or are you seeing glimmers of light in this?
We always have hope. We always see people who improve. Of course, we have our little heartbreaks as well, but we always welcome those folks back into recovery. That's the great thing about recovery. You can have a little slip, but you can pick yourself up and get right back into recovery. So yes, we always have hope.
Xavier University organized health screenings, and state mental health officials were on hand to honor those in recovery and to emphasize that addiction is a preventable public health issue that can no longer be ignored.
When we look at prescription medication and how it is used and used in fashions that make the population that take it so susceptible to other kinds of issues, we see both in terms of suicide, in terms of hospitalization, we see how drugs impact adversely our community, regardless of where we are. If we're in the lowest and lowest in terms of socioeconomics, or if we're on St. Charles Avenue. There's differences in terms of how it impacts, but the reality of it becomes the same.
I mean, you have to really talk about it. You have to get others to talk about it, families to talk about it. You look at other illnesses. You know, years ago, nobody would talk about cancer or other illnesses, and now we talk so freely about it, and there's just so much motivation around these illnesses, and the communities just get really fired up. And we've made a lot of progress when you think about it. You know, when you look over the past decades and where we were, you know, in 1970 and 1980 and where we are in the 2000s, it's quite a progress.
Addiction is a very divisive disease, but this year we brought together both Jefferson and Orleans parishes. Why is that so important?
Well, it's hard to address the problem of addiction and all the other ancillary issues that go along with it without working together. It's not a economic thing, it's not a racial thing, it's not a by parish or city thing. It affects all of us, and unless we all work together to address it, it won't get dealt with. So
it's empowering to see individuals come together and celebrate, socialize, and all together for the common cause to fight this disease of addiction, as you say. So it's nice to see people come together and socialize and enjoy each other's company, all celebrating and raising awareness about the realities of this disease.
New Orleanians have weathered every major storm, including the brain disease of addiction.
Everybody has somebody whose life is touched by substance abuse, addiction in some sort of way. So it's always a good reason to make an awareness of it and to help people who need the help to overcome it.
And I do believe that this is a very big issue in this city, and it's only getting worse, and it perpetuates into crime, and so for the future of our children and everyone around, we have to stop at the grassroots of where it starts, and that's addiction.
And that kind of resiliency and determination is something to celebrate, because one step at a time, treatment is effective.
There's always hope. Addiction is a treatable disease like anything else.
People do recover.
It doesn't just affect people living on the streets. It affects everybody. We all know somebody that has struggled with, substance use or addiction, and an event like this just raises the awareness that it's okay to go get treatment, and it's fabulous to be in recovery, and you should celebrate that.
And prevention really works.
And what we're trying to do is create a community where children will be safe, where they'll be healthy. It is a health event, really.
Is there hope for those who might be listening or struggling and they're at that desperate moment where they don't want to live or they think they can never get out of this?
I think there's a great hope. That's what we're out here for. We're out here to celebrate hope. We're out here to say there is an answer.
This is Mary Lou McCall.